of David. "There," said Bruce. "Feast your eyes on that." The contemplation of Michelangelo's David is not easy for everybody, but Catriona looked. "Look alike," whispered Bruce. She stared at the line of David's nose and brow. It was undoubtedly Bruce. Her eye followed the sweep of his arms and the musculature of his torso, and she had to admit it. Bruce could have been Michelangelo's young model. "I don't tell everybody about this," confided Bruce, "but I remember when I first saw a photograph of David, I thought, 'Jeez, that's me.' I was about 16 at the time, in Crieff. I was at Morrison's, you know, and one of the girls in the class stuck a picture of David up in a corridor and wrote underneath it, 'Bruce Anderson.' It was so immature, but somehow—" Pat, of course, had soon detected Bruce's narcissism, but in her state of infatuation, for that she acknowledged was what it was, she'd persuaded herself that his self-obsession was a harmless quirk, a hangover from adolescence, a passing phase. After all, there were plenty of young females who were just as fascinated by their appearance, spending hours in front of the mirror. It was more unusual amongst males, perhaps, but what was sauce for the goose should surely be sauce for the gander. If women were to indulge themselves in the contemplation of their own beauty, then why should men not do the same? For a few months she had circled Bruce, caught in his gravitational field as a moon might be in that of a planet, until at last she managed to extricate herself. When that happened, her father's relief at her escape had been palpable. "Men like that are very dangerous," he said to her. "The only thing to do is to tear yourself away. Believe me, I've seen it in so many of my patients." Pat's father, Dr. McGregor, a self-deprecating and scholarly man, was a psychiatrist and was particularly close to his daughter. He and Pat's mother had divorced after she'd gone off to restore a walled garden in Perthshire and had never returned. He had done nothing to deserve the desertion, but had been generous in his response. "Your mother has found herself elsewhere," he explained to Pat. "Il faut cultiver notre jardin," as Candide, I think, pointed out. "The important thing is her self-fulfillment. That's all that counts." But there was something else that counted for him, and that was Pat's own happiness. He doted on his daughter, and when he realized that she'd taken up with Bruce, he'd been tipped into depression. At the end of Pat's affair with Bruce, an end that he at least had realized was inevitable, he'd tried to explain to her that however low she might feel after the break-up, it was as nothing when compared with the risk she would take in staying with him. And that was why, when she received this invitation to meet Bruce in the Elephant House, Pat said nothing about it to her father, and it was also why she almost deleted it from her email inbox without a reply. Almost, but not quite. She moved the cursor to hover over the delete symbol, hesitated, and then moved it to reply. "See you there," she wrote. She added no emoticon, for what emoticon is there to express anticipation of the sort she was feeling? Chapter 2. On George IV Bridge. Pat arrived at the Elephant House before Bruce. She had not planned it that way. He'd suggested 10:30 in the morning, and she had lingered slightly in Forest Road so as to be at the café at 11:15. This was a stratagem to show him that she was not at his beck and call, and that even if she had agreed to meet him, she was not that eager to do so. It failed, however, as Bruce didn't get there until shortly after 11. When she found that he was yet to arrive, she briefly toyed with the idea of leaving. To do so would at least be to heed the advice, even if rather tardily, of her friend Janice, with whom she had discussed Bruce's invitation. Janice's views were very clear. "Don't," she counselled.